I would argue that I didn't earn that distinction, but I would tell you that on a warm day in May, I got a call. It was a 1063, and what that means is it's a suicidal person. And I remember the call coming out, and we headed to probably one of the tallest buildings that I now recognize in the area I work in Midtown Hills. And I remember getting to the building, getting into the front of the building, and there wasn't really a whole lot going on. It wasn't, overly chaotic. And riding an elevator 17 floors up to the very, very top of the building. And at the very top, it was this kind of panoramic of the city. Just one of the prettiest views I've seen, and I've been all over in every different part of the city. And I remember going up and kind of searching. The text of the call was that an individual was at the top of the building wanting to jump off of the building. And that's a call that's not all too uncommon. But what I found as I turned the corner was a man that was actually hanging off of the ledge of the building. He had about 3 inches just kind of in between him and falling 17 floors. So I turned the corner, I made contact with him, and I started to talk to him. Before in police experience, and probably something that you may have seen on the news, is that we repeat the same thing over and over again. But with us, that's not really what we do anymore. We try to engage, we talk. We actually have partners at the Mental Health Cooperative that come out and teach us how to talk. So I was able to talk to this individual. We talked about where he grew up. We talked about the landmarks. We talked about Cape Hope. We talked about music. We talked about stuff that we really enjoyed. And before I go any further and get off of the, proverbial ledge, I want to talk a little bit about culture. And culture is something in law enforcement that you guys probably hear about and read about a whole lot, and you rarely get to hear about it from someone who's a part of that culture. And for me, kind of getting a glimpse of the culture at the department I work in really started as a very, very young officer. I responded to a call. A group of juveniles had robbed a kiwick up in Antioch. And when they robbed the kiwick, they took a shot at the clerk. They narrowly missed him by about 2 inches. We responded to the scene. We were able to catch all of the offenders. We go back over to the store, go through everything with the business owner. And I remember coming into the store, or coming into work the next day, a little bit elated, proud of the work that we had done. I remember my boss said something to me that really has stuck with me over the years. He said, I want you to go out to the store, and I want you to check on the store owner. I want you to check on him and see how he is. I remember as a very young police officer, I was like, why do I have to do that? That's not fighting crime. But I remember going out and interacting with this guy. I remember as soon as I got into the opening of the store, this individual who didn't speak English came out, and he greeted me with a handful of water. And just the visceral emotion in his face is something that I can't put into words. That's kind of the culture that we're engaging in now. It's a culture of engagement, a culture of communication. The realities that your police officers see out here in the street are stuff that we can't show you. I can sit up here and I can talk to you about what I saw and what I experienced, but I can't take you to a shooting scene and show you what it's like to put a tourniquet on a 13-year-old who's shot in the leg, who's bleeding, crying, and asking you to hold his hand. I can't do that. I can talk about it, but it's the emotion and the reality that we see is oftentimes different from the perception. And in this particular incident, we have gotten really, really into incorporating our mental health partners and engaging and communicating. So much so that when we teach training on how to talk to people with mental illness, Middle Tennessee Mobile Crisis, our mental health professionals come out and administer the training. They're part of the training. They're the role players. They're the person in crisis. And for me, being a part of that training, seeing that training, and implementing that training was very vital in the success. And so back to the ledge, I'm talking to this individual. Initially when we started talking, one can only imagine how distraught he was. He's literally hanging on the ledge of a building. He said that he had hit this proverbial wall that he couldn't get off of. He said that there was just no hope, there was nothing, and we talked for 15 minutes. He talked about the music he liked, which was like AC/DC, and I talked about like country folk music that I like. So we couldn't really connect there, but we moved on. And talked about vacations, talked about just anything you can think about. We tried to talk about. And eventually, him crying and him being upset, I was able to see a little glimmer of a smile. And after about 15 minutes of talking, he looked over at me and he said, "I'm ready." And I really didn't know what that meant. So I was like, "Okay, what are you ready for?" And he said, "I'm ready to get off, but I can't. I need your help." And so I walked over to the ledge, and I helped him over the ledge, and we were able to get him the help that he needed. And I think everyone in this room and anyone watching has probably experienced a point in their life where they reach a proverbial ledge, if not a literal ledge. And, I can't take credit for doing anything special. I just went and talked to a man and did my job. But what he did was special. He had the courage to get the help that he needed. And I would hope that if anyone else finds themselves there, that they would get the help that they needed. But culturally, with us, the sanctity of life is what's most precious. That's what we want to save. That's what we want to preserve. We want to preserve the lives of those that suffer from mental illness. Brad mentioned earlier running into burning buildings. We'll leave that to the firefighters. They're a little bit better at that. But I want to thank you guys for inviting us here, give you a little glimpse of our culture and kind of what I experienced that day with that gentleman. And I appreciate it.